Tonight, break in the weather. The Kiskatinaw River wildfire is now a fire of note. Heartbreaking. Evacuees speak on having to leave their homes. And more help. Firefighters arriving from across BC. Good evening and thank you for joining us. And we begin tonight with the Kiskatinaw River wildfire still burning out of control. Now, firefighters catching a bit of a break today as winds in the region have died down from yesterday.
The wind definitely hasn't been as strong as it was yesterday. Yesterday, the wind was a big factor in the reasoning why it grew so quickly. So a little bit more favorable conditions today for crews. The wind hasn't been as strong. And as a result, that's why we haven't seen the fire behavior has gone down, and the growth of the fire hasn't been as extreme as we saw yesterday.
The fire has exploded in size to 4,554 hectares. It's now become the first wildfire of note in BC this year. As the winds have died down, it stopped the fire from moving for now. An evacuation order is in place for close to 70 residents in the Kelly Lake area. An evacuation alert has also been issued by the Peace River Regional District. The BC Wildfire Service says up to 65 firefighters are on the ground. They're being assisted by air tankers and helicopters from above. Heavy machinery is working around the clock to build a fire guard around the blaze. Structure protection crews are now on scene. The Peace River Regional District has yet to be notified of any buildings that have been destroyed. No thunderstorms are in the forecast for the weekend, and firefighters can also expect seasonal temperatures over the next few days. However, because of the ongoing drought conditions, they aren't seeing the humidity rise at night, which helps fighting the fire. And not everyone who was ordered to leave did so. The Dawson Creek RCMP saying 17 people have defied the evacuation order. However, one Kelly Lake resident says she is grateful for all the firefighters and workers that have helped her since she was forced to flee her home.
It's heartbreaking because I've lived there 30 plus years. It's my home. I raised my children there. I raised my grandchildren there. To have to leave my house and possibly come back to nothing, I can't even describe the pain.
Our intention in running the reception center is not just to welcome the evacuees and give them the services they require because they're on order, but it's to truly welcome them to Dawson Creek.
There are close to 70 people that have been evacuated. Madashaw says evacuees can expect help with lodging, food, clothing, even things like pet supplies. Now, the reception center will be open Saturday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. So far, the hours for Sunday have yet to be determined. Residents of Kelly Lake are being asked to go to the City of Dawson Creek's website for more information. And the MLA for Peace River South with praise for the efforts of firefighters and those working to save Kelly Lake.
There are significant resources that have been deployed, and there are more on their way.
Larry Neufeld's message for residents in Kelly Lake is to please stay safe, please cooperate with authorities, and please stay out of the danger zone. Any updates this weekend on the evacuation order and evacuation alert can be found on the Peace River Regional District's websites. And high winds and dry conditions yesterday causing the Pocket Knife Creek wildfire to burn out of control once again. The fire is burning east of the Redfern-Kelly Provincial Park and is now 2,500 hectares in size. It was discovered on May the 17th and was brought under control on May the 27th. But the BC Wildfire Service says hot temperatures and high winds on Wednesday to blame, and it's being described as a highly vigorous surface fire. The Wildfire Service saying the situation is volatile. More personnel will be heading to the scene in the coming days. The fire is one of 60 burning across British Columbia, most of which are right here in northeast BC. Well, in other news tonight, the province has announced a new public safety initiative. It's aimed at combating crime and protecting BC businesses. The initiative comes in the form of a $5 million investment. The money will go towards a new action plan called the Community Safety and Target Enforcement Program, or CSTEP for short. The program looks to boost police efforts when addressing street crime and nonviolent offenses in vulnerable downtown communities. The ad support comes as welcome news to the BC businesses who report a constant rise in downtown disorders across the province. And a local state of emergency could be put in place this weekend in the city of Williams Lake. It follows public safety issues brought forward by the city councillors, but not everyone is in the favor of taking such a drastic move. Councillor Scott Nelson says the crimes range from suspected arson to open drug use to even people defecating in the streets. And Nelson wants a local state of emergency to address the disorder. However, another city councillor wonders if such drastic measures are warranted, saying many other BC communities are facing similar challenges.
It's happening everywhere, and I feel that as we're watching it increase here, it's increasing in a lot of different places. So I'm not sure if this qualifies for an emergency, and I'm not sure if it qualifies for special powers.
The problems plaguing Williams Lake were raised in the legislature in Victoria yesterday. The Minister for State for Community Safety says they will be reaching out to city officials. People in a small town BC resort about 100 kilometers east of Vancouver are boiling mad over what's happened to their hot springs. The pools are on public property, but they were filled with boulders, then fenced off. CTV's Andrew Johnson on who's being ordered to clean it up.
This water that bubbles up from the bowels of the earth isn't the only thing steaming right now in Harrison Hot Springs.
Oh, just terrible. Selfish.
People are stewing because they can no longer go for a free soak in this scenic spot at the source of the community's hot springs. The pools, known locally as Hobo Hot Springs, were mysteriously filled in with dirt and boulders last fall, and this week they're suddenly surrounded by a fence.
Well, I thought it was mean-spirited. I thought it was vandalism, and I thought it was just an attempt to stop people enjoying a little bit of the hot spring resource without having to pay for it.
Some pay for it next door at the Harrison Hot Springs Resort, a local tourist destination for generations. And the resort is being blamed for burying and fencing in the free pool.
Unilateral action, treating these natural resources like a monopoly, like they own them, sends the wrong message.
The resort, potentially in hot water over all of this, isn't talking, despite multiple requests for an interview. Now the resort is being investigated by the province and has been ordered to repair the natural spring next door.
The resort is going to clean up the springs and return it to its natural state. As part of that, they asked if they could erect a fence around the site.
The order requires the free hot spring site to be restored by the end of September, undoing what the mayor calls a simple mistake by the resort he believes his community is indebted to.
The village owes its reputation nationally and internationally largely to visitor experiences through the resort over many, many decades.
And it appears the humble Hobo Hot Springs will once again provide a more rustic resort alternative again soon. Andrew Johnson, CTV News, Harrison Hot Springs.
Well, Carter Hart, one of the 5 former World Junior hockey players accused of sexual assault, took the stand again today. The explosive case is being heard in a London, Ontario courtroom. This time, the former Philadelphia Flyers goaltender was cross-examined by the Crown. CTV's Nick Paparella has the details.
Well, under tough questioning from Crown attorney Megan Cunningham, Carter Hart was very careful in choosing his words. He was asked about his level of intoxication on that June night in 2018. He said he and the other players had attended a Hockey Canada gala, and there was an open bar there, and he consumed alcohol. Then he said many of the players went to a couple of bars downtown where they consumed more alcohol. When asked to describe his state, he said it was very intoxicated, the most drunk he's ever been. Then he was asked if he was open to having a sexual encounter that night, and he said yes, and that it took place in room 209 at the Delta Armories Hotel, again in downtown London. He said he asked the woman to perform a sex act. She said yes, and really that's the crux of this case, whether or not there was consent. Now, Carter Hart is one of 5 men charged with sexual assault. They have all pled not guilty. This case resumes next week.
Canada's gross domestic product in the first quarter of this year is up by a 0.5 percentage point. That's in comparison to the 0.6% increase in the fourth quarter of last year. Mining and oil and gas extraction among the main drivers of GDP growth in Q1. Manufacturing saw an upturn for the first time since the first quarter of 2023. Well, the Prime Minister spoke to the Federation of Canadian Municipalities today. Mark Carney explained what his government is doing to help cities get through the trade war. And as Judy Trin tells us, it involves boosting housing and big national projects.
So in face of foreign threats, no prize for guessing what I'm saying.
The Prime Minister no longer has to name the threat, but Mark Carney was clear on the domestic challenges that Canada has to overcome.
Our long-standing weak productivity is beginning to strain government finances. It's certainly making life less affordable for Canadian families, and it's threatening to undermine the vital social programs.
To create jobs and economic growth, the federal government wants to spur the development of nation-building projects. The government also plans to help cities cut development fees in half and provide $25 billion to build housing.
Crucial point, while making municipalities whole through federal investments in water, power lines, and wastewater.
I said to the Prime Minister that I've waited for several decades to finally see a government that are coming back to building housing.
But the money has yet to flow. That's a concern for the city of Windsor. The auto manufacturing hub has been hit hard. Unemployment in the city hit 10% last month. The mayor wants the Prime Minister to focus on negotiating a new trade agreement fast.
People just want to know what the rules of engagement are. Businesses want to know that too, so they can plan for their futures. Everyone wants to know where we're going to land on this and how fast we can land there.
South of the border, a new study projects that the U.S. could lose more than $11 billion in tourism this year. American mayors said they're continuing to apply pressure on the White House.
Try to understand how much is a product going to cost in 3 months and what can I sell it for in 6? It's impossible. You have to keep working. You have to keep lines of communications open.
After meeting with municipal leaders, the Prime Minister will now turn his attention to the provinces. He'll meet with the premiers on Monday. On the agenda, removing interprovincial trade barriers by Canada Day. Judy Trin, CTV News, Ottawa.
Meanwhile, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre says his party will vote against the Liberal government's $486 billion spending plan.
This week, Mark Carney introduced $500 billion of spending with no budget. The first time that has happened in decades. That Conservatives will vote against this $500 billion of inflationary, irresponsible, out-of-control Liberal spending.
The proposed spending plan introduced Tuesday comes after the Carney government announced it would forego tabling a budget until this fall. That decision has been criticized by the Conservatives. Canada Post has asked the federal jobs minister to force a union vote on what the Crown Corporation calls its final offer. The offer presented on Wednesday includes an end to compulsory overtime and a signing bonus of up to $1,000. Canada Post says negotiations are at an impasse. The Crown Corporation insists the best hope of reaching a new collective agreement is a vote overseen by the Canada Industrial Relations Board. Union representatives met with Job Minister today, Patty Hadju. They say rallies are planned across the country tomorrow. 55,000 workers have been in a strike position since last Friday, but the union has opted for now for a ban for overtime. All right, please stay tuned. I'll be right back with a look at your weekend weather.